I'm Cris Garcia with Cobalt. I'll be presenting for you guys today. Okay, so what I'll be showing you guys today is sort of like a general. It's going to cover the latest products that we have from Cobalt. Since the last time I was here, we talked about products that were sort of legacy in the phase of moving towards UHD or 12G. Then we actually acquired a company that's been sort of the compression side of Cobalt. And so now we're doing a lot of that for compression. Now, in fact, this past weekend, a lot of which everybody saw, there was a lot of products that were in the trucks with all the process for the game, and part of it was this new compression and some of the new UHD products that we have. So you can go to the slide, please. I think a lot of you guys know Cobalt is one of the founders of OpenGear, along with Ross Video. What we have here is three essential OpenGear platforms. The one on the left is what a lot of customers usually see inside of a facility or a truck. That's the shared platform, which is the OpenGear or GX platform now. The one in the middle, that's our HPF. We call that the high power frame. At the time, that's what it was. Now this one has a little more power. And then a couple of years ago, we came out with this portable standalone. It's an OpenGear frame. So essentially, we have this, and if you happen to have any OpenGear cards, you can easily just mount them into that. So now you have a very portable solution that can be in a rack, in a truck, in a very remote location. You can talk to it through a dashboard, or you can directly control it through the knobs in the front. And for all these three platforms that we have a variety of different categories that we can easily adapt for whatever the use case is. From basic routing, DA to processing, all the way up to the latest, what I said earlier, the 4K UHD 12G stuff. So we can do a lot of that. Some of the products are very singular, where they do just one type of processing. Other products have a multiple combination of all these services in one card through a license. So you're going to see that theme within different products that we have. And a lot of this is what we're bringing to NAB, and that's where we're sort of going as a software-defined solution for a lot of our existing customers and new customers that want to sort of maximize by keeping more density inside of one of these frames. Next slide.
Does the portable one, is that self-contained power supply there?
Yeah, so this guy's, yeah, go to the next one, please. So this one actually has a redundant power. So it comes by default with two power supplies. You also get by default SNMP, which in the other frames, the bigger 2RU frames, that's an option that you need to have. And that's not only us, but that's anybody else. With this little frame, it's a small little portable frame. It's a 1RU. You can put three of these in a 19-inch rack. This has redundant power, and it also what we call advanced networking. So if you want to do a very robust, complex system, you can build that with this particular little portable frame. In fact, we package this with our encoding and decoding platforms or cards that allows us to create these very remote robust solutions. So, and then what is also unique about this is that we have some cards that can utilize one rear I/O and mount two cards. So if you have two of those cards that are 2-channel, now you have 4 channels in a small little package. So that's what we try to address with a lot of feedback that we got from customers that were maybe using like an AJ FS4, FS2 or whatever. But this is a lot smaller, and you can maximize the space in a 1RU space 19-inch rack. Okay, next. Click again. So you can keep clicking up. So this, as you can see here, we are now addressing multiple markets. Our biggest one now is the broadcast. We're starting to do more, development for the post environment. And as I mentioned, this over the weekend, we had a lot of these. This is what you're looking at here. These are the Game Creek trucks. These are actually in conjunction with Amazon. They built these for the football games that they're broadcasting. And so we built these, and I'll mention the products that we have inside of these trucks. So there's a lot of 2110, the latest, interface standard that's been used for a lot of these productions. And then the next slide, or the next market is basically the on-set production. We have a lot of these, with Warner Brothers, Disney, all those different studios are using these racks to do all the processing. So we have a very complex variety of solutions that can fit into basically any of these markets with our OpenGear 2RU or now the standalone solution. Next. So this is what I mentioned, the 2110, which is what we have inside of those Game Creek trucks. Next. So this, what you're looking at here, this is what we call the Indigo 2110 card. This has essentially two 25 gig ports that can be either inbound channels or outbound. So if you marry that, or if you adapt it to one of our 9904, 9905 platforms that view up and down audio or video processing, now you have a way to bring in natively 2110 into the card, do your audio processing, color correction, whatever, and then come back out 2110. Or you can basically just keep the whole thing or convert it down to baseband, either 3G or 12G. And that's simply by adapting this, what we call the daughter board, the Indigo card. So this is one of the latest, and this is actually what's driving those production trucks, those Game Creek trucks that I showed you. Okay, next. And this is a sort of an example. I mentioned here the 9905 and 9904. The 9905, that's our multi-processing. So it has 4 discrete channels that you can process in and out of the card up to 3G. Then the bottom one is our 9904, which can do from 3G or SD all the way through 12G. And as you can see, if I combine that with my 2110 Indigo card, now I have the ability to do the sort of inbound or outbound processing out of this card with NMOS support and all the other functionality that's provided with the 2110. Okay, next. So the 9905 card that I just mentioned with the Indigo, as you can see here, we have 4 channels that can basically allow me to do whatever I want. Intermix my audio, video, any combination. The top clear outlines are basically what comes by default with this product. So I can do all my basic audio, embedding, de-embedding, shuffling, up and down cross conversion, frame sync. All that comes by default with this product. The bottom ones are what we consider to be like a premium option that you can enable with the license key. So even if you have this product, you can essentially just get a temp license or pay for the whole license and be able to have all the functionality that maybe one product solution. But now this is all integrated with this particular platform. And what's very unique with this is that I can also adapt HDMI in, HDMI out, and I also have I can also adapt fiber if that's an option. And then I'll discuss this a little further with some of the other functions, for example, Dante's and other functionality with this product. Next. And yeah, so it's just outlining that it's basically the 4 channels that I can process this. Next. Next. So for the 9904, which is it's a similar platform to the 9905. This is strictly just a 4K card. So if somebody has this product, they can activate the Dante function. So now you have up to 16 in or out points that you can utilize with this product. So if you're doing an up-down cross conversion, you can sort of come in AES and then come out Dante, or you can come in Dante and embed some of those channels back into the SDI, or do whatever you want with the available 16 and 16 out combination. And this is obviously done through one of the rear IOs that we can adapt, which is you need to have the Ethernet jack to be able to do that. Next. And then this is a little more complex. Again, the same Dante license, but this is more for the 9905, which has the 4 channels. So that allows me to basically be able to utilize my embedded audio channels. I can create different mixes, combine different audio channels by including also AES, MADI, or Dante. So now for the Dante, as you can see, because I have 4 channels, now I can have 64 by 64 combinations to be able to embed, de-embed, or do whatever I want with this sort of audio matrix that I have here. Next. And with the same products that we have, the 9905 or 9904, we're also using this product to do LUT processing on set, or if somebody wants to take a cube file, we can also manipulate that with this card. And typically this is done by utilizing one of these 2 software products, which is the LiveGrid or the Wonderlook. And the way we do that is we can take an S-Log, for example, from one of these Sony cameras, bring it into the card, and then we can adjust the LUT, process it, and send it out. And we can also generate the cube file that then gets used for in post-production. Next. And then this, I think this is a very unique product. When I came here the last time, I don't think we had this, but this is actually a PC in an OpenGear design. So the actual card is the whole PC. It has SSDs. It has a spinning disk. We can load it with Windows 10, Linux, and we are actually testing at the moment doing Chrome OS as well for some Google applications. You can go to the next. So this is what it looks like. So the card fits into an OpenGear frame. This is the 4 slots, so it occupies 4 slots in a frame. And as you can see here, we have 2 dedicated NICs that you can use for whatever. You can also do streaming from there. 4 USB ports, HDMI and DisplayPort that can go up to 4K. We have the one SSD that comes with that. You can add additional SSD memory or a drive, and then we have a traditional hard disk that can be mounted for either local storage or whatever you want to do with it. A lot of our customers are using this in places where maybe they don't want somebody to play with the PC or have to deal with IT. They just basically put one of these inside of an OpenGear frame, and it just looks like it's another video processing card. But essentially, you can drive also any of your other services, including you can install dashboard in this and be able to control the rest of the cards from the same frame. So this is obviously when you look at the specs, it doesn't look that impressive, but this is the first sort of version design that we came out with. And we're working on the next generation that's going to have a little more performance, power, more memory, more capability to be able to allow us to be more than just use it as a utility PC. And then also what's very unique about this is that we have an RS-232 for some of those appliances that require that, which today you need to convert that from a USB to that. So we actually have it on that. Next slide. And this is what we call now sort of like a software-defined, hardware-based encoding platform. This is actually one that we sort of worked pretty closely with some of the social media companies because they wanted a larger number of audios. They wanted something that was sort of like bulletproof, that was not depending on a software UI to run this, like a server. They wanted something that could utilize the same flexibility and performance of OpenGear, but have it in a small package that could be basically alive. What we're doing here is that we have, within one OpenGear card, we have 4 channels of encoding that we can do. So by default, it comes with 1 channel. And let's just say as time goes on, if I want to keep adding more encoding channels, I can easily activate those with the license key, which is very unique with this. Instead of adding more cards, you just keep activating the licenses. And then what's very unique about this is that I have up to 32 channels, sort of 16 pairs that I can activate of audio within this card. This also does SRT and RIS, including all the other protocols that you may be using today. And And then within the same platform, I can do MPEG-2, MPEG-4, and also HEVC. We're also doing the ultra low latency processing. We can also encode Dolby. And it's basically, once you set it, forget it, sort of design that you can have multiple, channels in one 2RU frame. And you can also, at some point, if you wanted to, you can upgrade to 4K or do multiple channels of 4K. There's another car that we have now that has 2 channels that can be either MPEG-4 or HEVC up to 4K. So that's the latest addition that we added to our lineup, which is this product that can do what a lot of people are now considering as a RIS or SRT sort of platform for those people that want to move away from traditional satellites and more IP based. You can also use this. So this is just a quick little introduction to this product, but it basically has a lot of capability. You'll see some of the examples as the presentation goes on. Next. These top models that you see here, the 9223, 9990, these are essentially the legacy products that we had over the years. Now the bottom one, the 9992, which is the one I just described, that has sort of taken over those products. And that's primarily because, as you can see, it basically checks all the boxes and it has all the capability that the other products have. So in terms of an investment, if you're looking at something that can give you the longer shelf life, then obviously you would go with the latest one, which is the one that's a little more flexible. Plus, you can work with legacy like MPEG-2, MPEG-4, and then migrate your channels to HEVC at some point. So that's just a table to compare those different models. Next. One thing that we added to that platform that I just mentioned, the 9992, is that we're basically now adding a built-in frame sync. Most cases, we identified that a lot of the setups had issues with the frame sync. So as soon as they removed the frame sync, they lost the connection or the signal. So now this basically provides that. And then we're also able to automatically configure the VPIT. So, based on the 709 or 2020, I can also transfer the SDR, HDR, have, any of that metadata included in the signal. I can also do OP47 subtitles. And then we have the mid-plane gigabit Ethernet interface that's part of this sort of upgrade if anybody's working with that. And again, you'll see that it can be mounted on that BBG 1300, which is a smaller frame, or you can mount it on the standard OpenGear frame or the HBF. Next. And then the same that I just described for the encoder, we also have this for the decoder. So it would be the same in terms of support, but in terms of this product, we are limited to 2 channels. But even though I have 2 channels, I can also have multiple copies, so almost like a DA out of this card. But it offers the same protocol support, same MPEG-2, MPEG-4, HEVC, 4K, low latency, and then also support for the SRT, RIS, and the typical protocols that are still pretty active in today's markets. Next. And again, the same comparison. For the decoder, we only have these 2 options, the 9990 and then the 9992. But again, as you can see, the 92 checks all the boxes. So most of our customers today are sort of migrating towards a new model. Next. And again, the same as the 9992, it also supports all the latest features that we added for the encoding platform. We also added to the decoder as well. Next. And then the PC that we have this RIS, sort of like a software option in case somebody wanted to have a gateway. We sort of defined that little PC card and we call it Safe Link, which basically what it allows existing customers that have multiple legacy encoders or decoders, they can put these gateways in between all that and they can transport up to 8 streams bi-directionally. by utilizing the RISC capability of protecting the signals back and forth with all the low latency, all the protection that RISC offers, without having to replace existing legacy equipment. So this is a very unique. Again, it's running on that little PC that I just described earlier. Next. One thing that we're offering with, if you combine the 9904 and the encoder, is that we're also able to offer the SL HDR1 metadata processing between the baseband and the encoder. We have the whole from point to point. So this is just to illustrate that point. And again, you can utilize either fiber, ASI, or a dedicated IP link. It would still work with. You have this combination of Cobalt products. Next. And then now, I don't know if anybody here has been following what RISC offers. So Cobalt is one of the main contributors to RISC. The RISC essentially it's a way to normalize ARQ. It standardizes what SRT had been, trying to do for years. The problem with SRT was that High Vision was basically promoting that as a very reliable, functional system. But the problem with that is that you had to use High Vision all the time. So if you had, let's say, High Vision and Cobalt, you always had glitches or issues with interoperability. So what the RISC group did, basically they took all that and they sort of said, okay, how do we define and, help users implement into their workflows a mechanism that sort of has no issues in terms of brands or platforms, and that's what RISC basically became. So this reliable internet stream transport, that's what basically defines a standard way of basically transporting ARQ and how that mechanism works between products. So next. So what RISC is trying to do is basically, defining a standard for basically processing or utilizing ARQ for when you have any packet loss, how do you recover that? So in 2018, basically they identified these were the basic things that they wanted to address. From what you see here, being able to be interoperable, being able to retransmit any packets that are lost, recovering that, link aggregation or bonding, like some of those backpacks that are out there, and then being able to have redundant paths to sort of, be able to process. So that was defined in 2018. In 2020, they took all that and then they added multi-stream tunnelings, encryption, authentication, high bit rate support. And then in 2021, they added all of that, and then they just basically took it to the next level, and which is the most current RISC version today. So, if anybody wants to have a reliable way to transport content back and forth, you can easily implement any of these features into your link without having to spend a lot of money, which is what you typically do when you have a managed service, or if you wanted to use satellite for your transmission. Next. So this is an example. So what this is, we actually worked with the PGA to sort of test this out. They wanted to have, or what they had traditionally done was utilize ASI to do their uplink and downlink. But they weren't sure, if RISC was going to be the selling point or the selling ticket for to be able to replace the high cost and the having to manage an ASI link between point to point. So what they did in that scenario is that they allowed our encoder to basically do a multi-link. They used ASI and RISC, and at some points they basically just completely disregarded the ASI link. And they just looked at the RISC and they found that, they had the same reliability. They had all the controls. That what they learned from this sort of setup was that perhaps, it was time to start, paying more attention to risk as a way to reduce costs and be a little more flexible in terms of being able to be dynamic as needed. So I believe now a lot of their sort of projects that they have around this sort of workflow, they utilize a lot of risk, and not necessarily just Cobalt, but they use different products that are supporting risk, including some existing products out there like even eBird's High Vision also now supports risk, and other products that are out there that as long as you support risk, you should be able to set this up no matter who the manufacturer is.
So the green slot, I can't see it from back here. The green slots are your boxes.
So these are the OpenGear cards.
Yeah.
Right. So these are the 9992 cards, encoder and decoder.
I kind of assumed that's what it, I just couldn't see it.
Yeah, and then that's just utilizing a regular public internet connection. There is nothing special about it. That's the beauty with the wrist. That it doesn't have to be managed. It can just be a regular connection. So what we've actually done during NAB is we rented the service that they provide during the convention. And we actually had a link that went from Vegas all the way to Champaign, Illinois, back to LA, and then up to San Francisco, and then back to the convention area. And we never saw loss or any weird like artifacts or
What kind of bandwidth was it using at that point?
I don't have the specifics, but it wasn't anything,
Nothing special. Huh?
special. It was just whatever they offered. And that was the whole point, to prove that you can utilize.
Yeah, that was good.
Yeah. So this is sort of becoming the now, as we see a lot of customers sort of moving away from A side to this because of lower costs. So there is no real added cost or cost increase if you have risk. Okay, and next. And then this is an example of how you can utilize risk. For example, if you want to do bi-directional transport, you can do that. We had a lot of customers during the highest point of the pandemic using this to do like some of the remote productions, presentations, because of the ability to utilize a regular internet connection and having the secure network. Next. And then you can also do loading, so you can basically balance your load. You can have two pads that can basically, you can define exactly which one's going to take more or less. So if you have a decent Wi-Fi, then you may want to put more on the Wi-Fi, or you can utilize 4G or 5G connection as well. Next. And then we can also do seamless switching. So if you have issues with one, it'll automatically switch without you having to define it or make the change. So that's one of the unique things about RISC as well. Next. And then, like I said, customers were utilizing this for remote production or having conferences. So one of the things that was added to RISC was the ability to do bi-directional. You're also able to control like a PTZ camera, for example, or remote cameras, and be able to have multiple groups contributing to the whole production. Next. Similar to what you might be able to do with, if you have a multicast, you're also able to do that through a dedicated network. You can also take this to the cloud, and there's a whole that LibRISC library that allows you to do that. So it's not limiting, but it's really giving you a lot more tools that allows you to do it locally, or you can also do it in the cloud. Next. And again, like I just said, if you do it from let's say a lot of people are using this with Amazon Web Services. So if you have a server in the cloud, you can from there, your cloud or multicast to different clients. Next. And then this is just a quick table just to outline exactly what products Cobalt actually have, or what they support in regards to RISC based on the different profiles. Obviously, the latest ones, you got 9992 encoder, decoder, and the SafeLink are the most complete. And that's for obvious reasons, because that's sort of our latest platform that sort of were used to develop this. Next. Yeah, go to the next one. So we're also doing SCUDI 10435. I think, this is nothing new per se, but a lot of people haven't looked at Cobalt as a company that has this solution. We covered this from point to point. We can go from baseband, taking 104, doing the SCUDI triggers, and then we use our encoding and decoding platform to convert that to 35. And then once you have it coming back the other way, you can take the 35 and convert it back to baseband as needed. We can do instant triggers with an operator, or we can also do like an XML or GPIO triggers. And then if you have let's say an automated system, we can also adapt this. And there's some more complex SCUDI version that we have, but we have a lot of customers that are using this sort of combination to do their program replacement, blocking commercials or replacing commercials, localizing content. This is what they're using this for. Yes. And then we're basically, if you go to the next one, please. Next. So you can keep so that it fills up the whole. So this is typically what you see in an HDR SDR sort of production. You have your typical content that comes from an SDR source, an HDR source, and the question is, how do you process both? If, let's just say you want to have that singular point, and if your production is all HDR, well, how do you also bring into the mix the SDR content, right? So this is what it typically looks like in a HDR SDR workflow. So all these points of processing, for example, going from the HDR to the SDR and streaming, Cobalt basically can adapt any of these products to any of those points of either SDR or HDR. Those trucks that I mentioned, the Game Creek trucks, they're actually using the 9904s and the 9992s. And that's, again, to be able to process not only HDR, but also being able to deliver that as 2110s. So again, this is something that if a customer or somebody has a need to be able to process both, you can easily utilize any of these Cobalt products. Next. Excellent. So last year we came out with this reverse ITM, which is the intelligent tone mapping. This is the Technicolor flavor. Now we're actually able to offer this within our products. Before it was always just going from SDR to HDR, but now we're also able to bring it back from HDR to SDR, utilizing the automatic tone mapping, with the Technicolor license. That's how we're able to do that. If you wanted to use a more, sort of custom to your needs, flavor, you can use one of the 3D LUTs that we have built into any of these cards. But essentially, it's we always tell customers that if you want a proven automatic, the automatic process that it's going to be correct, we recommend the Technicolor. But if you have abilities and skills to really adapt a certain look, and you have other options to address. Next. And this is an example of what we did. For example, you have your SDR source. And these are, again, are the products that we offer, the multi-viewer and the 9904 cards. You can go from SDR to HDR, and this is all done through that the inverse tone mapping, which is the Technicolor license that we drive these cards with. So if you have that particular application, then you can easily utilize one of these cards. Next. Now, moving from HDR, now this is a lot of our, I think there's a lot of customers that don't realize that also Cobalt makes fiber products. So here, this is just an example of what we can do with our existing platforms. We can do basically multi-channel, from fiber to electrical, electrical to fiber with audio. And then we can also use CWDM, MUX, and UMUX, including being able to transport over fiber a 1 gig connection as well. So this is just to illustrate that point. A lot of customers always look for somebody else when they think of fiber, but I just wanted to bring this just in case there was someone that wanted to see a fiber solution for Cobalt. Next. So the video distribution, next, please. This is a relatively new product. We came out, or we redesigned this. The older one, the outgoing one, is the 9001, 9003. This, we have a ton of these also DAs inside of those trucks that you saw there, including some of the uplinks trucks that were on site at the game. But this, what's very unique is that now we're offering a lot more outputs per, let's just say, a 1 input by 16, as opposed to like limiting that to 8 or 9, which was the case in the past. And then also, depending if you want to utilize a regular BNC connection or you want to go a little more dense with the mini DIN or HDBNC, you have an option to utilize any of the different IO modules that we have. And as you can see there, we have sort of like a measure based on the belt and cable, the 1694. You can see the range. If you go 3G, it's 120 meters, 160 meters for HD, and then 400 meters for this. So that gives you an idea of what the length the cable run could be if you utilize this card. Next. And then this is, again, a similar design to that other card, but this is now a 2-channel. And then with this, you get a cross point. You can essentially, what's nice about this is that you can have 2 cards in one. You can have it as a dual 1x8 or a single 1x6. And again, you have the option of adapting different rear IOs. Next. And then similar to the 9905 card, this is a 9904. This one can go from SD all the way through 12G 4K. But what's very unique about this is that I can also do fiber. I can do 2110. I can do the HDR. I can do all of the basically top level processing. As you can see highlighted at the bottom with blue. This can basically do LUTs, Dolby, Dante. You can do everything within this. And it's one that's going to keep evolving over time, just because this is sort of the platform that we're using today to be able to design and develop new functionalities. Next. This is also a very unique DA. So this is our DA 9915 DA card. We offer this in these 3 models, so 1x16, 2x16, and a 4x16. And what is very unique about this is, as you see here, we have SFPs, but we also have the baseband connection. This has a very nice cross point where you can basically have, if you have, so I'm not sure, I don't have it in this slide here, but in the rear IO, we have 2 slots for SFPs. And if you have, let's just say, a 2-channel SFP per slot, now you have 4 inputs or 4 outputs that can be sort of flipped around in conjunction with the baseband channels, and that's all done inside the dashboard. So if you have a system that requires you to process SD, including 4K or 12G, this allows you to basically have like a small mini routing system, and you can combine multiple of these cards in a frame. But it's very, very capable and very dense. And again, it's using the same processing that we use with the 9904, but it's just limited to distribution. And it also has a small little LCD that tells you exactly what the formats, the signal that's coming into the car. And if you can go to the next slide. So this one, if you combine the 1x16, you can have this sort of combination with the SFPs. So you can have 1 receive and 2 transmit, for example. The 2x16, you can have 2 receive, 2 transmit, or the other way around. And then the 4x16, you can have 4 receive, 2 receive, or 2 transmit, and 4 transmit. So depending on how many SFPs you have in the cart, you go into dashboard and then you can sort of manipulate the cross points to do whatever you want. So this is a very nice card, and it also has a very low price point for what it does. So this is one that's sort of becoming popular because you can address anywhere from SD all the way to 12G. Next. And then this guy here, this is our small little throwdown box. You can essentially power this with a dedicated power, but you can also power this with a 5 volts USB connector. And that little eye pattern that you see there, that actually comes standard with this. So what I've seen a lot of our customers do is they use this inside of facilities. They bring it around and they use that almost like a scope. So instead of having to pay like, 20 something for a scope, they use this. This is only like a $4.95 little box. And we decided to add this because initially the way this being able to have this pattern on the display came about was that we wanted to validate the quality of this particular box. And once we had already developed this, we said, well, why don't we just throw it in there and include it as part of the product? Just leave it. It sort of helps, sell itself as a product. And with this, it's a 1x4, but you can essentially do, 12G. You can also do ASI, and it's all self-contained. It has its own little GUI that allows you to set it up and control it. And through that same GUI, you can bring up this eye pattern to look at the signal quality. So this is in my opinion, I think it's a really nice little product that we have that I think the competition doesn't. Next. And then along with the 12G 4K, this is our latest 4K multi-viewer. Basically, it's 4K, but it supports anywhere from SD all the way to 4K. What's neat about this is that it has a built-in scaler. So if you have SD, HD, 3G, or 12G, it'll basically combine all those different formats, and the output will always be 4K. So it'll give you a 1-to-1 ratio output. And it also has dual head output. So you can essentially have out of either 6 inputs or 18 inputs, you can decide what output is going to display whatever combination of windows, as an example. And again, you have your regular UMB, your time code, meters, all that stuff you can set up with this as you do with any other multi-viewer. Next. And this is a router card that we have. So this is an OpenGear router card. We have these two models, a 12x12 and a 24x24. They can go from SD all the way to 12G. And these panels that you see here, because we do not make a panel, if you happen to have any of these panels, like either a DNF, a Lavo, a PESA, or some other panel, we can adapt those panels to this. So if you have any of these in your facility, you put this in an OpenGear frame, and you can talk to it as if you were to use any other, routing platform. And then just so you guys know, by NAB timeframe, we're also coming out with, it's going to be a 64x64, which is and a 32x32 as well, which is going to be very similar to an AJ or a Blackmagic, a traditional looking box. But this we do have, and like I said, if you have one of these panels, you can easily adapt one of these routing.
What's the one on the left? Down below.
This one here?
Yeah, what's that?
These are DNF bands. Yeah, so these are DNF, PESA, DNF, and Lavo. Okay, next. So again, we offer the clean switch capability on this. We support multiple protocols. And then you can do your typical SNMP, JSON, serial, GPIO, and then all these panels, as I just mentioned, can be adapted to that. Next. And then in addition to all those other 12G products, we now added 12G support to these little bricks that we have. And these are now, this particular case is a fiber, so we can do electrical to optical, 12G. And we have multiple connectors, so STL0FC. You can also do NATI, ASI. It's a very, simple little product that can do a lot, and And by the way, all these products have a 5-year warranty. We manufacture these in the US. And if anybody needs to basically expand whatever they do in an OpenGear frame, you can also include some of these because we do share the design between the cards, the small little boxes. So there is no, cutting corners in terms of what gets designed into these small little boxes. They're basically the same quality. We just do less in these boxes because of the footprint, but it's essentially the same code that we're sharing. Next. And then this is, so then we can also go optical to electrical in the same platform, just flipping the signal around. Okay. And then this is just to sort of to summarize exactly what all those different products that I mentioned. So within the Cobalt ecosystem, we can basically take a signal, take it through, in this case, for example, I have the DA, which is the 12G DA, the 9915. I can, from there, feed my multi-viewer. I can also send the signal out to my router card, the one that I just mentioned, the 12x12 or 24x24. I can also do my processing with the 9904 or 9905 cards. I can take it to the encoder, decoder, and then bring it back down to baseband with the same 9904 card. And this can all be done with either fiber, HDMI, or 12G, so it doesn't really matter what flavor of interface you're working with, because all these products have the flexibility to utilize any of those different interfaces. And within all these different cards that we have here, we have a whole series of licenses that we can activate depending on what it is that you want to do. For example, HDR, Dolby, anything, it's all done self-contained within that. So this is what Cobalt is now. When I came here the last time, a lot of our products were sort of still like in the 3G domain. Now a lot of that stuff sort of migrated to the 4K UHD platform, and we're going to keep going forward with now 2110 and whatever else comes after that. So, yeah. I think that's it, right? And that's it. Anybody has any questions? I know it's a lot. It's a lot of products, but I just wanted to give you guys an idea of what's actually a lot of this stuff we're going to bring out to NAB. A lot of that stuff, especially this last slide, was inside of those trucks. And our biggest customers like NEP, they use a lot of that. And so we're constantly going back and forth, modifying, tweaking things. In fact, right now we're modifying the last little box, that fiber to a 12G to adapt JPEG access or NEP. So that's sort of the type of company that we are. We're basically not a big monster that can just put everything on the shelf and just sell it. But we take very specific requests and modify and tweak it for specific applications. And that's how a lot of these products came about. We're not interested in just like selling, as a product as a commodity, but selling it for a real engineering purpose. Which is why that 9904 keeps evolving. Now that one supports 2110. We're adapting new interfaces. Out of that same product, we're also coming out with a whole series of HDMI to SDI or SDI to HDMI products that have built-in scaling and also color correction that can be added as a license. Let's say you need it for an event, you can also get a temp license. You can use it and then it expires in a month. So that's really the focus of a lot of our products. And obviously the last time I was here, it was more around basement stuff, or not in this 12G UHD world. But now it's, as everybody else is going to that space, we're also moving some of that.
Go ahead.
Oh, you're gonna have the multi-viewers. Do they have any facility for caption decoding?
Yeah, so they have, the one you saw here, this is the latest one that supports 4K. But the legacy one, including this, you can also decode captions.
608 and 708.
608, yeah. And then you can also, we're working with the TSL as well, TSL protocols that can run it inside of that. It has its own functionality as well. But basically anything you do with a typical multi-viewer, you can do that. So you can position also, you can do different backgrounds for the text or the time code or all that. That can be done per PIF, per window.
Okay.
You can resize them, you can create multiple layouts, save them inside a dashboard, and then depending on what it is that you're working with, you can load that layout, have either preview program or whatever you want to do, multiple windows. It's all basically
Is the
user
dashboard
defined.
interface for that, is it pretty much kind of real time, what you see is what you get, or is it kind of like create it in dashboard, upload it?
No, you can do it in real time.
Okay.
But a lot of our customers, what they do is the nice thing with dashboards, they can create different profiles, save them offline, like in a USB stick, for example. And what they do is they take that configuration, they load it to different cards. So that instead of having to redo the whole process again, you can just load it and it instantly takes the whole setup. And we always tell customers there's a way to basically download and save the configuration. So once you save it, in case somebody comes in and starts playing with it, and if now when you show up, it looks all out of place, you can instantly reload it again. And it happens again. We get calls like, hey, I set this up and it just looks weird, right? So we're able to go into the cart and pull out the last known set. So we always tell customers, make sure that once you set it, and if it requires a lot of, adjustments or specific sizing and all that, make sure you see it. There's a way to.
Does Cobalt have its own version of dashboard?
That's a good question. Yeah, we do. We actually just came out with it.
Oh, okay.
Because a lot of our customers, especially some of the products that have a lot of features, it takes a little while to load up or populate all the different tabs. So what we've seen is that as the customer waits, they think that maybe the product doesn't work for certain functions because they don't see a tab. And it's because dashboard takes a little longer to populate. So now what we did is we came out with a more dynamic one that runs on a browser.
Okay.
So you can be at
Even
home,
better.
you call it out the IP address, and you give it exactly what that frame is. Then you can look at what all the cards inside of that frame. So we have that, and we're also coming out with a more dynamic panel. I don't know if you guys are familiar with the ROS, the Ultrax panel. There's a panel that's touchscreen and all that. So we're coming out with our own to basically leverage this new interface that we have. It basically almost looks like it's dashboard, but it's running our own processing in the back. Yeah, I mean, these are just in a nutshell, like what's coming to NAB, in case you guys don't make it out there. But if you guys do come out there, we're going to have this. And if you guys want to learn more or get more, deeper into how the products work behind the scenes, if let's just say, I know you're looking for a new position somewhere. If you happen to go somewhere and like we happen to have, even if it's not Cobalt, just dashboard with OpenGear, we oftentimes can help, understand exactly what's going on. Because we interface a lot with ROS to understand, because ROS is the one that supports that. So we have to constantly, provide feedback and also take their latest updates as to what's the new petition. But yeah, that's. You guys have anything else? And then we're going to be, you guys were talking about webinars. So we're going to be discussing like just RIS by itself in a webinar, or just HDR by itself in a webinar, because there's so much we can talk about. So if you guys ever want to learn more about that, not just how Cobalt does it, but just how the industry is doing it, or what is Technicolor in comparison to, like, let's say Dolby Vision or somebody else, or how do you process HDR with regular standard LUTs versus having one of these licenses.
Just as an industry, interested in the industry, all these new trucks that you said that were involved with Amazon, what they were doing, are those? I guess I'm kind of interested to know where the industry is going. Is Amazon doing those in-house, Is it a contractor that they work with? How is that
So they,
structure working?
yeah, so they, essentially Amazon gave, I guess, funded Game Creek, basically said, hey, design these for us. I mean, it's all Amazon,
Yeah.
but it's Game Creek that's doing all the design, implementation, all that.
But then who's operating? I mean, is that a contractor or is that them?
No, it's them.
It's them.
It's them, yeah. It's them.
That's interesting.
In fact, when a few months ago, when these went live, Jeff Bezos was there, like in the trucks. He wanted
Sure.
to see what this whole thing was about.
See where all this money.
Yeah, exactly.
Mhm.
Like, and then it's funny because our one of our main designers, the guy that designs these, or at least the 2110 stuff, he happened to be in the truck because he's sort of still babysitting a lot of that because we're interfacing with everts or Lavo, and there's like glitches everywhere. So, so just to be there, and he came by, wanted to understand exactly how this workflow. What is this whole 2110? What's the benefit, right? Like, and so having to explain all that to someone like him, yes, he wants to know, like, saying, where's my money? But yeah, but that's all. Basically, that was done on purpose for them. Yeah, it says Game Creek, but it's also Amazon.
Thanks, Chris. I
Yeah,
don't
no
have any other questions, but hope you have a rest of the day.
Yeah, and tomorrow.
South, and appreciate you coming.
Yeah.
And have a great NAB.
Yeah, thank you.